Hello and welcome to the Golf Base Studio. Today we're going to be running through our DIY golf simulator guide, going through all the components that you need to build your very own golf simulator at home for yourself. The first thing you need to do is assess your space and set a budget. So, first of all, how much do you want to spend? Second of all, how much room have you got to work with at home, garage, wherever it might be? So generally we recommend a minimum of 2.8 meters of ceiling height, 3 meters of width in the room, about 4.5 meters of depth if you're using a camera-based launch monitor, about 5.5 meters if you're using a radar launch monitor. The first thing that you're going to need is a launch monitor. So this really is the brains of the operation. It's going to be measuring all the club data, all the ball data, what's happening, and it's going to spit it out onto the software that's being used. So there are so many different kinds of launch monitor out there now on the market, just because the market's grown exponentially. You've got camera-based launch monitors, radar launch monitors, you've got camera launch monitors that go in the ceiling. So the big thing to think about first is where you're going to position it. How much space you've got in that room. Again, we're coming back to that again. So if you're going to have a camera launch monitor, it's going to go next to the ball. If you're going to have a radar one, behind the ball, or obviously you can have a camera-based launch monitor in the ceiling. The camera ones tend to save space. They're also very accurate indoors. They're measuring all the ball data and stuff like that. The radar ones use a little bit more space. They're very accurate outdoors. Not to say they're not accurate indoors, but they just use more space because they want to track the golf ball through its flight a little bit more. Whereas obviously with the camera launch monitors, you'll see stickers on the clubs and things. It uses those as a reference point to measure everything. So you can obviously go anywhere from a Garmin R10 or a Rapsodo MLM2 Pro, more entry-level launch monitors, all the way up to Trackman IO, Foresight, or GC Hawk, Falcon. There's a massive plethora, but where most people sit is in that mid-range between maybe a SkyTrack Plus, a Garmin R50, a Unicore iMini, Foresight GC3. All these launch monitors give you a great array of sort of features with measured data, measured club data, and the ability to use different software as well. So something like the SkyTrack, you'll be using their software, which is very, very good. And then maybe with the Unicore or with the Garmin, you might want to use GS Pro because you want to use a high quality third-party software. So there is something for everyone that will fit into everybody's budget. The next thing that you're going to need is something to hit into. So that's either going to be an impact screen hung in a frame or an enclosure such as our Simbox or our Lux Bay. If you're going to use an impact screen, then you will need to build a timber frame or an enclosure into your room. The way we recommend doing this is by using 4x2 timber, screwing that into the walls like a goalpost shape. So you have left, right, top going across the top. And then we use angled steel, which is drilled, so it's got holes running all the way along it. We fix that to the inside of the frame, along the perimeter, and then using the holes in the steel and the eyelets in the screen, we put bungee cords through all the way around, and that basically holds it all in place. So you would want to cover all of those attachments, so we would use a foam pelmet kit. With this, it's 3 pieces of upholstered foam which attach to the frame or the wall, and they hide all of those attachments and give you a nice black border around the screen, making for a clean finish. If you're looking for the enclosure, obviously if it's maybe semi-permanent, or you might want to move it, pack it away, moving house, whatever the situation might be, then our Simbox or our Lux Bay is a really good option because they all come in 4 or 5 different boxes. It's all broken down, almost like flat pack furniture. You build it together. There's instruction manuals that we give in the packaging. We've also got loads of videos online and resources to help you build them at home. So it's something that you could move about, but also it's a premium looking enclosure. So it still looks really, really nice. The next thing you're going to need is a hitting mat. So quite important because it's obviously the club making contact with something. So you want it to feel nice, you want it to feel premium, you want it to look good, and you also want it to be durable. So we do a plethora of different mats and turfs, starting from a standard hitting mat, which is like a standard driving range mat. We do teaching mats, which have the cross, the alignment cross, and the arcs to help you swing. A lot of coaches like to use those on driving ranges and things. Also, maybe factor in, do you want to be able to use your own tees, like a normal tee? If you do, you'd be looking at an insert tee mat. So we do a couple of different types of those. We do a polypropylene one, we do a nylon one, which is a little bit higher quality. Some people like to cut these into strips. So if you have like say a Pro Tee VX in the ceiling and you just want to match the size of that hitting area to a hitting strip, we can cut you a size of that turf, and then you can inset it into your putting turf surround. So a lot of people like to maybe put 10, 20 mil underlay underneath the putting turf to build up the height, position the mat or the strip where it's going to go relative to the launch monitor, cut around it, take it out, and then sink the strip in so all your flooring is on the same level, so there's no lips or anything to trip over with the mat. Again, if you're looking to make it semi-permanent, you may just want to have your mat on top so you can move it out the way if needs be. But again, there are so many different mats, so choose the right one for yourself. You obviously want to see an image on the screen, so you're going to need a projector. So the projector will connect to either your PC, laptop, iPod, iPhone, and is going to show whatever is on there on the screen. You can go HD, you can go 4K, you can go short throw, you can kind of go short throw but a bit further back, as BenQ do. There's loads to choose from. It can be a bit of a minefield at times figuring out what's best. The main thing to think about first is placement. Where are you going to have it in the room? Are you going to have it in the ceiling? Are you going to have it on the floor in front of you in a case? Are you going to have it on a table mat to the side? So first of all, think about the placement, because that will determine the throw ratio that your projector has to be. The further forward it is, the shorter the throw ratio. The further back it is, it doesn't need a shorter throw ratio. So we tend to use a lot of Optoma projectors further forward because the throw ratio is a lot shorter. So if you have a smaller, tighter room maybe, but you still want it on the ceiling, you can have it right above you, just a little bit in front, so you're not going to project any shadows through you. If you've got a bigger space and we can have it just behind the golfer, we might go for a BenQ. Both short throw projectors, but have different throw ratios and sit about a metre and a half away from each other in the room. Another thing to bear in mind is obviously HD versus 4K. If you're looking to go 4K, you are going to need full 4K or 8K cabling for the HDMI cables. You'll also need a 4K capable PC. And you'll also, in terms of monitors and touchscreens, that will also need to be 4K. So you could have a 4K projector PC, but if you have a HD touchscreen, that's going to bring the whole quality down to 1080p, which you don't want. So that's something to bear in mind if you're going 4K. Also, lumens, a word that's thrown around an awful lot. Basically, the brighter your room is, the higher the lumens you need, because the brighter projector you want. The darker the room is, you might not need a projector with as many lumens because you can control the brightness and the darkness in your room. The sweet spot we find is probably between 3,500 and 4,000 lumens. This gives you enough light in a slightly darker space to see a really, really nice crisp image on the screen. So don't get too bogged down with lumens. You don't need to go, super 5, 6, 7,000, unless you're in a really bright commercial space. But if you're at home, 3,500, 4,000 is absolutely fine. We tend to use laser projectors now. Obviously, you don't need to replace the bulb. They have longer lifetimes, but the image also seems to be a lot better. The color is a lot better on a laser projector as well. So yeah, something else to bear in mind. So you've got all this kit in your room. You're going to need something to run it from, whether that's an iPhone, iPad, PC, laptop. A lot of it is going to depend on what system you have purchased. So if you've bought Skytrack Plus, it's very versatile. You can run this on a laptop, you can run it on a gaming PC, you can run it through an iPhone, iPad, and it's generally the only software that you can run on a Mac as well, which is quite interesting. So you've got loads of options there. If you're looking to use something with GS Pro, you will need a Windows gaming PC or gaming laptop. So the general specs that we sort of say is good enough for a high quality HD would be an Intel i7 core processor, 16 gigabytes of RAM, an NVIDIA graphics card, 4060 Ti 8 gig, and 500 or a terabyte of storage. If you're going to go 4K, you're looking at more 32 gigabytes of RAM and a 5080 graphics card, just to get that extra beef in the computer to give you a really nice 4K image. If you are going to use something like a TrackMan, their PC specs are a lot higher. They're more on the 4K side, just because they're trying to go all 4K with their software. But yeah, so again, the hardware that you buy will be based on the software you want to run. Most of the time we tend to think things work a lot better on PCs because everything runs cooler, tends to run smoother, but there are lots of different launch monitors that you can use with different devices. The last thing you're going to think about is finishing touches. So this is how your room is going to look visually. Things such as acoustic wall tiles, you can get foam beveled, we can do leatherette. There's a few different ways that we can finish the walls. You can also have like black simulator impact curtains, which help keep everything nice and dark. Also, they can retract back if you want to dual use the space. You don't want an enclosure protruding into the room. So again, there's a few different ways that you can finish the room, finish the screen. And then outside of that, it's thinking about storage solutions. Are you going to have a couple of bag stands? Do you want some club racks? How do you want to keep your room organised and tidy? But that's basically it. That's all the components that you need to build a golf simulator at home. If you'd like us to go into any more depth on any of the individual components and talk a little bit more about that, just let us know which ones in the comments, and we'll do that for you, and we'll see you soon.